Hello you guys, and welcome to the Prime Vanguard channel, and welcome back or welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be featuring and showcasing my Soul Saver Dragon deck profile for November 2020. Guys, I can't tell you exactly how proud I am of this deck. This deck is honestly like years since the game came out of just playtesting and going through a bunch of variations and just trying to keep this deck to meta relevance in every single format I could. But I feel like with all the support that Royal Paladin has gotten, and after seeing the Sanctuary Guard support that they're getting, and just seeing that it really won't be that much of like a help to Soul Saver Dragon, I figured the cards that we have now are the cards that we're just going to have to work with, as whatever we have now is going to just be the best variation of Soul Saver Dragon. This is the best variation I've made at the moment. I still feel as though that maybe when it comes to this deck that I'm still missing something, or there are just a few pieces that I feel like maybe I need, but this is currently the best variation of the deck that I have against the decks that I've been playing against. So without further ado, I'm going to hop right into this so I can showcase this deck. From this deck profile, I'm going to be going down to grade 3s all the way to grade 0s and just doing a quick little rundown of everything that it is, as that's what a deck profile is supposed to be. So without further ado, let's truly get started and seeing what Soul Saver Dragon has to bring to us today. Alright you guys, so of course I play the star of the deck, 4 copies of Soul Saver Dragons. So Soul Saver Dragon, she's the original finisher of the Royal Paladin clan. For those of you guys that do not know what her ability is, she has the ability of act on Vanguard Circle, you Soul Blast 5, and 6 of your units get plus 15,000 power until the end of the turn. Then her second ability is when it attacks, you may Soul Charge 1 card. So essentially this card feeds into itself. It's set up to be a finisher. You're going to Soul Blast 5 and build up your soul to 5, and then you're going to go ahead and do the Soul Blast of 15 to give each of your columns an additional 30,000 power if you have the full 6 rear guards to give it to. It's still really strong. 30k to each column, especially with all the power effects the Royal Paladin has and how easy it is to deck them and make a board, is no laughing matter. I think that the one thing that a lot of Soul Saver Dragon decks have gotten wrong lately that I've seen is they try to make the Soul Saver Dragon playstyle in a way where you can do it on turn 4, but when you explode on turn 4, that's it. If you don't win on that turn, then you lose. And the problem with that is obviously a lot of decks nowadays have really strong early game, or if they don't have really strong early game, they make up with that by getting a lot of card advantage so that they can survive their opponent's first grade 3 turn so that they can go into their turn. As the only way that this Soul Saver Dragon turns that happen like this, where it's on turn 4, is in decks where if you're going up against another setup deck, then you might win on that turn 4, or if you're going up against a deck like that's slower than this deck already is, well, this version of the deck is not, but a deck that normally would be slower than that version of Soul Saver Dragon, then you can win on turn 4. Essentially speaking, you have to stick with the way that this card is designed to be, and this card is designed to be a turn 4 to 5 card, but you have to know when to use the Soul Blast. The Soul Blast is very crucial and key to the playstyle of this card, as Soul Blasting 5 for Royal Paladin is a lot. Royal Paladin isn't known for soul charging, and we don't really have too many consistent soul charging cards in the sense of like they don't give us soul every turn other than maybe this card. We have a lot of cards that give us soul when they're placed, and we don't have any way of recycling those units, so we have to be careful and pay attention to when we decide to Soul Blast for her skill. But overall, if you stick with the main strategy of this deck and you follow up with our next card and you play your cards right, then essentially when you go into that Soul Blast turn, it's going to be really devastating to your opponent, and they're going to have a hard time recovering. Now moving on to our next grade 3, I'm going to go ahead and showcase 3 copies of Swordsman of the Explosive Flame Palamedes. Probably the best supporting card for Soul Saver Dragon. I mean, this card was literally designed to work with her specifically, as his ability lets you Soul Charge 1 when placed on Vanguard or Rearguard Circle, and then on Vanguard or Rearguard Circle, when you Soul Blast, you get 5,000 power per every card Soul Blasted. And I find it really funny that they even put, when you Soul Blast 5, this one gets 25k. So essentially they decided that, yeah, this was the card that was going to be used with Soul Saver Dragon. So Palamedes is just another card to help keep us with our aggression and create those big numbers that's really hard for our opponent to guard with, or our opponent has to use multiple cards to guard against. As I'm going to explain later in this deck that we usually go Force 2, so having units that can get big power with the critical is the main strategy behind this deck. And Palamedes is just the card to do it, as it gives us soul and power. And now for the star of the deck. This is the grade 3 that I've been looking for to make this clan work in the best way that I possibly can. I'm going to go ahead and showcase 3 copies of Blue Sky Knight Altmile. So you guys are probably wondering, why am I playing 3 copies of Blue Sky Knight Altmile in a Soul Saver deck? Well, let me explain why. So Blue Sky Knight Altmile adds the 3 things that Soul Saver Dragon has always been missing, and he fixes these issues all by himself as your first turn ride. His other ability, which is during your turn, if you have no face-up cards in your damage zone, he gets 15,000 power. So Altmile being a force unit and then being able to get 15,000 power on top of the Force 2 that you're going to go into is really powerful as well. So it's not like you're going to play a card like King of Knights Alfred or the other old Vanguards that you normally would play and have a weak starting turn. You're going to have Altmile to give you setup, give you a good offensive turn when you ride your first grade 3, and then you're going to have a deck thinning in a more condensed way, as that's another key point to make, is the fact that he takes 2 cards out your deck, and your 2 cards lead other cards to come out of your deck to help lead into your other plays, as that's what this deck is all about, as searching other key pieces to keep your strategy going. And Altmile is just perfect for that. I could not think of a better card to honestly do it. I mean, as of this moment, there are a few other cards I do want to playtest, and there's other variations of this deck that I still need more time to playtest, but this is the reason why I say that this is the best variation of Soul Saver right now, because Altmile just fixes everything that was wrong with it before. As like I stated, he gives consistency, a good first turn, and he helps you thin your deck out, all doing it in a proper way. So that's why Altmile is definitely the saving grace of this deck. You want to ride this card as your first turn. You don't want to ride Soul Saver as your first turn, and you most definitely do not want to ride Palamedes on your first turn, as while those cards give you just a force marker and a soul, that's essentially all they give you. And like I've been saying, Vanguard's too fast for that right now, or the decks essentially have too much consistency on their first grade 3 rides that they can do a lot to where that just isn't enough anymore. So Altmile most definitely is the card that saved this deck specifically. Moving on to our grade 2s. So since you guys now know that we play Altmile, I do play a lot of variety of grade 2s. The first one is 1 copy of Knight Determination Lamorak. Now, if you don't know what he does, he's a Counterblast 1. It's an act ability. You get 10,000 power for each Counterblast 1 you do with him. So let's say we take a lot of damage and we need to get our damage down to activate some of our other skills in the deck. This card essentially does that. That's what he's for. Like I said in my last Altmile video, this card just helps you condense your damage zone smaller so that this way you can keep your other skills always active. 1 copy of Diaconnect Dragon. So thanks to Diaconnect Dragon, this is another card that helps us with the strategy in building up our soul on place, and he is searchable because it is a grade 2, so it makes it even better working with Altmile. Moving on to our next grade 2, I play 1 copy of Knight of Magnificence Lucus. Being able to get a grade 2 that has 10,000 shield in your hand that's searchable is really good to have. So essentially I'm just playing this card for the extra defense capabilities that this deck needs, as this deck is really hard on its offense, but its defense not so much. And then for my next grade 2, I play 2 copies of High Dog Breeder Akane. So I do play Pongal in this deck, and Akane just helps us search out our Pongal, as obviously when you go into Soul Saver you want to be able to build up a board, and you know, Akane to Pongal to get Soul Saver good and going is obviously the oldest trick in the book. And the fact that this card creates a 21k column with that is helpful as well, as becoming 51k isn't that bad either. For our next grade 2, I'm just going to showcase all of them at once. I play the Hopesong Angel and Starlight Violinist package. So I've gone back and forth on this a lot, but essentially this package is what the deck needed just to push that offense and that defense even further. As I was stating before, we played cards like Altmile, Lamorak, and since our grade 2s are searchable, I figured why not make this deck more reliant on its grade 2s, because the grade 2s are stronger than the grade 1s anyway, so that this way we have a more offensive turn. So we play Hopesong Angel. For those of you that do not know what they do and how they tie into each other, Starlight Violinist has the continuous ability where if you have no face-up cards in your damage zone, all of your grade 2s get boost and intercept. And then Hopesong Angel has the ability where once per turn, you may counterblast 1 and search your deck up for Starlight Violinist. So essentially serving the same purpose as Akane and Pongal, Hopesong Angel helps us get out our Starlight Violinist, as this card is a key piece in our offense and defense plays, because being able to thin out our deck and get more cards onto the board while essentially turning all of our grade 2s to even stronger boosters to make our columns even stronger and have them on the board later for defense means that we don't have to worry so much about card advantage in our deck as we did before. The main issue that this deck has always had, like I've been saying, was card advantage and consistency. But with this little package here, we no longer have the issue, as now everything that you have on board is just a strong booster, but they're also just strong defenders as well, so you don't have to worry about taking so much of your hand to make up for the board that you may have lost or may not have for guarding. So this package right here definitely solved that issue. For my next grade 2, I play 4 copies of Absolute Blade Knight Levrow. Unless you're playing Majesty Lord Blaster, this is a staple in every single Royal Paladin deck. This card is a must. For those of you guys that do not know what it does, it is Vanguard or Rearguard Circle when placed from the hand. You may counterblast 1 and search your deck for a grade 2 and superior call it. But if you have no face-up card in your damage zone, you may Soul Blast 1 instead. As I said in my Altmile video, this has to be the most versatile grade 2 I've ever seen, essentially being active whenever you need it. The deck has no problem making soul, and giving up 1 soul really isn't that big a deal for your soul saver strategy. And then using a counterblast to feed into your no face-up damage strategy works out really well, as this card can lead to that as well. So essentially Livarot just fixes everything that we need our grade 2 lineup to be and helps us thin our deck out more so that we can keep our formation strong and healthy. I really have nothing more to say about this card. I don't feel like it's a debate on if Livarot should be in a deck, especially lower tier deck like this, because this is your key engine piece to make sure that everything is going well. Now we're on to our grade 1s. So for our grade 1s, I play 2 copies of Knight of Exemplary Sword Lucius. So Lucius is a card that helps us with our card advantage and our soul issue. As for he has the ability where on the rearguard circle, when you ride into grade 3, you may place him into the soul, draw a card, and call a card from your hand. So this is another card that helps us build up our soul, and it does it in a more consistent manner. Personally for me, I hate Tricorn and Dream Painter for this deck. Those cards, they're both terrible and they require a lot of resources just for 1 soul charge, which even in Soul Saver Dragon, I do not feel is worth the excess amount to get that 1 soul charge. Tricorn is a 7k unit and that's bad. That's just really bad. The 5k is irrelevant with Tricorn, especially when you play cards like Pongal. It's another Pongal, but it's a 7k Pongal. It's not worth it. And Dream Painter only activates when superior called by an effect. So the fact that I can't just place that card on board and get my soul charge is really bad. In all honesty, Lucius can be anything you want. I just chose this card because it gives us soul, a draw, and we're going to build up our board anyway into our Soul Saver Dragon turn, and because Soul Saver Dragon is a turn 4 to 5 deck, we're gonna have to ride another grade 3 anyway, so we really have 2 chances in the game to play this card. So it's not like I ever feel like I waste an opportunity with this card seeing it if I'm on Altmile, because I'll just call it out and go ahead and get my draw and next turn with my Soul Saver Dragon. So 2 copies of Lucius to help us build up soul and get a card draw. For our next grade 1, if it wasn't obvious already, we're playing 4 copies of Pongal. So the best grade 1 for Soul Saver Dragon and still a staple, Pongal's ability is when in place you soul charge 1, and if you soul charge a trigger unit, you get 5,000 power. So this card is our key soul charging unit. As we play 4 copies of it, this is the card that's going to be calling out a lot to get that extra soul that you need with Soul Saver Dragon, and is a Akane target, and this is the card that we're going to be mainly calling with her anyway, so it'll be call out, get the board, get the soul charge. Essentially those 2 work well together since I am playing Akane, and that's just the way I'm always going to play it, since I'm playing Soul Saver Dragon as my focus. So another card that I don't feel like is much to speak for, this is just one of the key cards that Royal Paladin has that gives you soul on the easiest condition. And for my last grade 1, I play 4 copies of Laurel Knight Sicilus. So Sicilus is like honestly one of the best grade 1s that Royal Paladin has. He is the grade 1 searcher for the grade 3s, which makes him really helpful as, like I was saying before, we play a lot of grade 3s. We play 10 grade 3s in here, and whether I need Soul Saber Dragon for next turn or Altmile for my first turn, this is just really good to have. He's your best first turn ride as well to help you boost up your consistency, and his ability to get 5k when you have no face of cards in your damage zone, and with the way the deck is built, that's an easy feat to meet. Just means easy feat to meet, just essentially means that that extra 5,000 power is not hard to get, and when you combine with Soul Saber Dragon, this card becomes 28k on his own if you needed to ever be a 28k attacker against other Force decks or decks Excel and etc. But this is essentially your best first turn ride and the card that you want to see to keep your hand healthy as you want to filter out your grade 3 pieces, and that's mainly what it's here for. And now we're on to triggers. Now, I know every Soul Saber Dragon player is going to come at me for this, but this is essentially how I feel about the deck, since I want to make this deck the most competitively viable way that I can. I play 4 copies of Bringer of Good Luck Epona. I play 4 copies of Flogal. I play 4 copies of Flash Shield Iseult. And I play 4 copies of the Yggdrasil Maiden Elaine. So I try to keep this deck OG as possible, considering the fact that Soul Saber Dragon was Aichi Sendo's first boss monster. But this is how I feel like the deck should be. I'm going to be honest here, guys. I know that a lot of Soul Saber players like to do the whole 12 crit thing and beatdown, but I'm just going to straight up say it. That is wrong. That is not how you play this deck at all, to be completely honest. 12 crit or 10 crit sounds fun, but let me tell you the problem with that. If that's how you want to play the deck, and if that's the direction you want to go, your grade 2 turns either better be extreme. You better play the deck to where your grade 2 turns are extremely rushed down and hope you get lucky with a critical trigger there, or you better have some way of getting consistent card advantage in your deck to where you can reuse Soul Saber Dragon either way on your 4th or 5th turn consistently over and over again. The problem with 10 critical or 12 critical guys is the fact that criticals, although they add more offensive pressure, they don't add any more resources back. And with the way that this deck works is the fact that you already have extremely offensive turns. You're setting this deck up to be a setup deck to where you're going to get 2 force markers on Soul Saber Dragon, and you're going to get the additional powers from all of your units, and you have Starlight Violinist to help you with your offense. So the deck itself can create really good offense. The critical triggers don't really mean as much, especially since we're a Force clan. We'll just go Force 2 anyway. So the critical triggers are really just a cherry on top when you see them to scare your opponent into guarding with more cards. I mean, naturally, this deck does really well on Rushdown as well. So it's not like extra critical triggers do anything for you. And you have to consider that when you're playing this deck, if you're not going to go first all the time and you want to see a card like a draw trigger that can help you get more resources when you take damage, or be that card that can nullify that attack against your opponent. And that's just what draw triggers do. I feel like this trigger lineup is perfect. I feel like if anything, you can take out one Iseult to throw in another copy of the critical trigger Belinus, or you can go the other way. I would even say add one more draw trigger to the deck to add more consistency. You can go ahead and play one Barcgal. It's not that big a deal. But right now, I just feel like this is the exactly perfect trigger lineup that Soul Saber Dragon needs to be as consistently and as meta relevant as possible for Royal Paladin at this moment. You can debate me all you want in the comment section, but I will defend this trigger lineup for this deck. Finally, for my starter, I'm playing Barcgal. Of course I have to play Barcgal. This is Soul Saber Dragon. Like, if you guys remember the OG days, it was Barcgal, Lu, Flogal, Blaster Blade. Go get your 5 soul for Soul Saber Dragon. Like, come on, like, it's Barcgal, you have to play it. And that's it, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I know this video has been longer than others, but I've worked really hard on this deck for like the last 3 months, 3 to 4 months to a year, but we have all the support for it like a few months ago, and then we had the Majesty Lord Blaster set, and I haven't play tested that variation of the deck too much yet, so I'm going to be doing that soon. But again, thank you for watching. Please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. Do not forget to hit the notification bell so that you guys get notified about all my new videos when they come out. And if you have a friend that loves Soul Saver Dragon as much as I do, go ahead and share this video with them so that they have a Soul Saver Dragon deck profile to use as their guidance. Remember guys, all my deck profiles are just a guide to what I personally feel is the correct way to play a certain deck or my variation of the deck to suit my play style. So that's just my take on that. But that's going to be all for today's video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I also hope you had a really great Thanksgiving. I know that I did. That's why this video is a day late. But that's all I have to say for now. Y'all enjoy the rest of your weekend and stay safe on Black Friday shopping.